My name is Greg Lang. I do training and communications for the County Road Program. Glad you could join us for this third in our series of IRIS webinars, and we're dealing with GIS today and what we currently have, what you can actually tap into now, and what we're working on and is actually almost in beta, or is in beta actually, for version 10. So we'll be doing that. We will be joined by the others in our development team. Ken Smith will be doing the majority of the presentation, and we'll be able to listen and watch in on that. Casper Leonard is in here. He is our IT director. Tom Emery is one of the developers and is doing a lot of the things to make sure it still works for you, and so is Raymond Dennison. And we also have Brian Worley on the call. He is the director of the County Road Program. So all of us will be in here helping you out. Just a few quick things. On your screen, you see should be at the bottom. You should have a microphone button. If you needed to talk, you certainly can do that. If not, please mute yourself, which I see most everybody has, or I can let that off. If you want to be shown, you can show your camera. If not, don't worry about that as well. I don't think we'll need to share screens, but if we did, we could go that route as well. The other thing that some of you has found is on the upper right, there should be a little bubble, like a chat bubble, because it is our chat screen. That's where hopefully you can submit any questions that you have and or say anything you need to say. And we also, when we get to a lot of question and answers, we'll open it up. And then, but if you want to make sure that you get something put in there that we do discuss, please throw it into the chat box. Just make sure there, because it defaults to chatting to everybody. So if you were trying to do just a question to one person, make sure you're actually selecting that one person so not everybody gets that chat if that's how it was doing. And in fact, if you'd like to start with that, just again, go into the chat, give us your name, the county or agency you're from, and just let us know that information so we can know where everyone's at. So go ahead and drop into the chat, put that in. The very last thing I would point out is, as sometimes the presentations are going up, at the very top, it'll say view everyone. There's a little drop down and arrows. You've got different options of who's talking, the active cameras. You can hide everyone if you want, like during slides and during other demos, so your screen will fill completely with what the active screen is from Ken and others. Or you can see everybody. It's however you'd like to do. So there's always that as well. So you can always change your screen whatever you need. With that, I'm not seeing any questions other than, oh, okay, one of the karaoke requests. That's what I was laughing about. So no, I don't know that band, so I'm not able to sing those songs. Now you're all going to be wondering all webinar, what was the request? Let me turn it over to Ken. Ken Smith is our database administrator, and as we like to say, our GIS guru, because he has some background in that too and stepped up when we were looking more at that. So very appreciative. Ken, make sure our data is correct, make sure things that are going from 9 to 10 and such are accurate as well as saved and we don't lose data. But he's been looking at what we have been able to do and what we can do now, as well as what we want to do in the future with our GIS. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ken and let him talk about GIS for us. Ken.
Thank you, Greg. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Yeah, today, as Greg said, my name is Ken Smith. I'm the database administrator, and I've been working with the GIS stuff. I've been with County Road Department now or County Road Program now for about 1.5 years. Today, I'm going to talk about what we have in IRIS 9 for GIS data and where we're going with GIS data with IRIS 10. So let's go ahead and just launch right into that. Now, there are 2 different ways that we store information about where features are located in IRIS. The most common way that we have for doing that is by using the road number and the milepost. All the features that we have in IRIS have road and milepost locations. It's been that way since IRIS has ever been. In about IRIS version 8 or so, we added coordinate locations to about 15 different feature types. This was set up by creating a general coordinate system that's defined in your configuration file. That's typically something like the state plane coordinates, north zone, south zone, but it could be whatever it is you want. Historically, that data has came from the GIS sections of the counties. And like I said, this has been in IRIS since IRIS 8 or so. Now, those road features that have coordinate values, those are accidents, approaches, bridges, catch basins, cul-de-sacs, culverts. Here we go. Thank you. Gate, intersection, manholes, monuments, railroad crossings, signals, signs, utility, and wheelchairs. So those are all the different features that we have the capability of recording information about where they're located by their X and Y coordinate. And currently, we have over 36,000 features. Those are primarily signs, culverts, and bridges. And that's the vast majority of that information is spread across 5 different counties or so. And to give you some sort of an idea, on the left there we have bridges. These are the bridges that we have in the system. You got 464 of those, and that's spread across 4 different counties. In culverts, we have the most. We have over 20,000 culverts spread across 5 different counties. Likewise, signs, we have about 15,000 signs spread across 3 different counties. And then we have a handful of features across the state. There's accident, approaches. We got somebody feeding back here a bit. Thank you. So those other features, sorry about that. Those other features are catch basins. We have 141 of those. We've got manholes and a few monuments and some railroad crossings. That kind of gives you an idea for what we currently have in IRIS right now. We do have a fairly good amount of features, but it is kind of down to just a few counties making use of it at this point. There are some issues that we've uncovered with the data as well. The map on the corner there shows an example of where we have a street sign that falls just outside of Mongolia. And that has to do with the fact that they had an incorrect value in their GPS format. And some of the problems that some of the issues that we came across was that we had coordinates in these XY coordinates, and we had GPS locations, and they were all kind of mixed together. We also had a mixture of GPS formats. Sometimes they would use eastings, sometimes they used westings. It was basically a mix. And sometimes they reversed their X and Y fields. And there are some cases where we just don't know what these values represent because we can't make heads or tails out of what they are. So the first thing I want to talk about is how we are making this GIS information available to you. And we have created 4 different prototypes where we are planning to provide data access for you. The first prototype is by using an ESRI format called the File Geodatabase. And I'll be going through all these different ones here as I go through the presentation. The second one is the Google Map files as a KML type file. And then Arc Online, which is an ESRI cloud service where we can share information, and then directly from the IRIS API. Now, all of these prototypes are available now, but there may be some limitations I'll be going through as we go through the presentation. Now, the ESRI format, that's the File Geodatabase. We are creating one of those on a weekly basis for each county. All 15 layers we create point maps out of, and those things are all available for you to download on a whenever you need to. But again, they are produced on a weekly basis. These file geodatabases, all these features have attributes associated with them as well. If there are lookup, and those attributes are the attributes from the base table. Now, sometimes we have lookup values. For example, we keep road keys for inside of bridge tables. On these attribute tables for the file geo databases, I'm going out to the road tables to get the road name and the road number and including that in the file geo database. So you don't have to worry about trying to link up relationships or anything like that. And these file geo databases are available for you to download from your IRIS FTP directories. We have several counties that have FTP set up already. If you don't have an FTP directory set up for your county or forgotten how to get into your FTP directory, let us know and we can set one up for you fairly easily. Now these file geo databases, they can be used with software such as ArcMap or ArcPro or QGIS and many other different software systems out there. Here's an example where I took one of these file geo databases and brought it into ArcPro. Again, you can see all the different features there. You can click on the features. You can do analysis on them. Anything that you can do with ArcPro or ArcOnline, you can do with these file geo databases. The next prototype feature delivery service, if you will, that we've come up with is Google Map Format, KMLs. Again, we're creating these on a weekly basis as well. Point maps are created for all the features with geometry locations. And those attributes include all the data from the tables, as well as the lookup values, just like with the file geo databases. And these KML files can be downloaded from your IRIS FTP directory as well. And you can use these KML files in software such as Google Earth. But here's an example of where I've taken one of these KML files and brought it into Google Earth. And what I'd like to do is just take and do a quick demo for you on what that looks like. I go to Google Earth and I go to my bridge project. It will zoom you down into all your different bridges. Again, you can click on one to get the attributes. So here's all the attributes coming up. So here's all the attributes associated with that particular bridge. You can also click on the bridge in the table of contents here, and that will take you to that individual bridge and allow you to see the attributes for it and see where it's located. Now, the things that you can't necessarily do with the KML files in Google Earth that you can do with like the file geo databases in ArcPro is that you can't necessarily say, like, give me all the bridges that have a sufficiency rating of a certain point, or give me all the ones within a 100-mile radius of another GIS feature or something like that. But it does allow you to visualize all the data that you have and create maps and provide information out to the public, especially if you don't have those other more costly features, and considering that Google Earth is free. So let me pop back over to my slideshow. The next tool that we're providing for people is ArcOnline. This is a cloud service created by ESRI. And we have set up a content service on ArcOnline for each county. Those geo databases that we create on a weekly basis, we use to update that content as well. Content services can be shared with the public or specific ArcOnline users. That allows you to consume the data locally in ArcMap or with their web-based map viewers. Here is what the service looks like, which is basically not very sexy looking because it's just a service at this point, but all of the different layers are available for you to use, to download, to export, and you can see there's a share button over here where I can set up the sharing for it. ArcOnline also has an online mapping tool that allows you to use those services and produce maps and do analysis. So I'll just do a quick demo of what that looks like live. So here's a case where I've got all these culverts here. You can see I have them all displayed in this map viewer. I can, like I can do with the ArcPro and whatnot, I can look at the individual features about that. And then also, here's another thing that I can do for bridges. Let me click on that and that. This is a case where I have taken the bridges and varied the symbol to show that the lower the sufficiency rating, the larger the circle is. So we can identify bridges that we may want to go and look at and deal with. And there's a lot more that you can do with these ARC online services. You can do the analysis, you can do map printing. There's a variety of different things that you can do. Go back over to my spreadsheet, my thing here. So moving on. The last way that we have currently made this information available to you is through our IRIS-10 API, which is an application programming interface. This provides you direct access to our IRIS data. It provides back the tabular data and the location coordinates that are available for that information. This provides a real-time link to your IRIS data. It doesn't have to be recreated on a weekly basis. It does require your administrator to set up some security access, and it does require programming on your side to use the information. Basically, this is what the system looks like. When you send a request for a given bridge, it comes back with what's called JSON formatted data that provides all the different column headers and then the data. So you can see that down here at the bottom, there are some location information that you can use to with whatever application you're trying to create with that API call. Now, it's all well and fine to be able to visualize data and visualize the GIS data, but how do you get the GIS data into the system? Currently, we have about 4 different methods from which that we are trying to provide you the option to get that information in. You can enter that information in the IRIS application, IRIS-9 or IRIS-10. You can use our new IRIS Remote version 10 application, in which I'll go into, or you can use the API that I just talked about to create your own program to interface with the IRIS-10 system, or you can have your GIS staff coordinate with us to facilitate a one-time load of information. So here's what it looks like. When you're doing if you chose the manual entry option, if you go to your IRIS-9 version, you'll notice that there is an X coordinate and a Y coordinate. At this point, you can just manually type in your coordinate, or you can copy paste if you feel more comfortable doing that. I have made it smart enough so that if you do put in a projected coordinate, like a state plane north zone coordinate, that will be fine. Or if you put in a GPS point and you put it in as decimal degrees, that I can understand that as well too, because I can tell that there's a difference between the two. So that's what we have had in IRIS-9 since the beginning. We have some new tools that we're working on at this point, like IRIS-10 Remote. Now, what's IRIS Remote? IRIS Remote is an application that we've had for a while that we are now we're revisiting it and making it better for IRIS-10. IRIS Remote is an application that runs on your laptop, allows you to go out into the field and to collect inspection information. The new version of IRIS-10 incorporates a map into the application so you can see where each one of those different features have been recorded as existing. And once you're out in the field, it has the ability to allow you to update that feature's location by tapping into a GPS unit that you have connected to your laptop. And it uses that particular point to put in as the location. Once you get back into the office, that information is updated and synchronized back to the IRIS-10 system or the IRIS system. And I just wanted to show a quick demo of that, and we have right here. So for example, here I'm doing culverts, and I've got a whole list of culverts here. And as I click on different culverts, it takes me around to where those particular culverts have been located. And if you scroll over here to the right, you can see that I have latitude and longitude for each one of those different culverts. But if you don't happen to have a culvert location, or if the culvert location that you have entered is incorrect, then you can click on this update feature location, which will go out and find the latitude and longitude for the GPS with the GPS that's connected to your laptop. In this particular case, this is where I happen to live, so this is where we're putting that culvert right now. And you can zoom in. There's my house, and you can zoom out. You can pan around. Now, you don't have to be online for this to work either. If I go back over here to like another, if you're out in the field, you may not always have internet access. If you don't have internet access, you can go offline. And then we have, each time you synchronize, we ship down a set of maps for you to use for that particular, for your particular county. So you can still see the maps and get that information if you are offline. When you're online, I switch over to the aerial photography just so that you can have a better idea for what's there. Once you get back into the office and you do the synchronization process, all this information will flow up into IRIS and be recorded there. Now, I see there's a question here, but are the hosted services in ArcGIS online, or are they out on a server that you're all hosting? Those are actually on Arc Online. On a weekly basis, I push up the information to Arc Online so that they are updated there and maintained updated up on the Arc Online. We currently do not have ArcGIS Enterprise, so we're not able to host that information there locally at this point in time. So the next item that we have here for getting information, GIS information into IRIS, is basically a custom data import. This could be either you developing a program yourself that uses the IRIS 10 API to push that information into IRIS, or we can coordinate with your staff for a one-time load of local information. And that could vary from county to county on how we make that happen. Do have some limitations about this particular project. First of all, the shared GIS data prototypes that we're using to push information out to you, they're all at the proof of concept stage, so they could be changing as we continue to develop. We have a basic set of ESRI products. And this is what I was referring to when I was answering Eric's question. We just have a single user license of Arc Pro and Arc Online. We do have some limited staffing resources, and due to license limitations, the shared GIS products that we have they required to be semi-manually created, and as such, they are limited to a weekly published schedule. So if we want to extend our offerings or reduce the lag time between the data publishing, we would need to purchase the ESRI Enterprise licenses, which would give us a lot more capability and functionality. We wanted, though, to take this in a stepwise approach, not throw a bunch of money at the project at the beginning until we understand exactly what it is that people need and what we could do. So some of our future GIS initiatives that we're looking at is, first of all, try to identify some additional sources of location information. For example, I could add an additional 1,600 bridge locations by using the ODOT bridge data. They have the latitude and longitude for all the bridges, and I can make a correlation between that data and what we have in IRIS. I'm also planning on scouring through the user fields for counties, because I noticed that some counties will put GPS locations in user 1 or user 2, those type of things. And I'm also very interested in obtaining location information from your county GIS staff. The next thing that we're looking to do is to recreate the IRIS GIS user group. We want to meet, discuss our needs, our requirements, our resources, and some common practices. If you're interested in being on that group, I would recommend that you contact Greg to let us know. And finally, one of the future initiatives that I'm really very excited about is doing some research and development on linear referencing. This is where you take a geographic representation of the road as a road center line. And we know at the beginning of the road that it starts at milepost 0 and goes all the way to the end of the road at maybe milepost 10. And given the road and milepost information, with linear referencing tools, we're able to identify coordinates along that mile and where those points should fall on the road. The exciting thing about that is that it would allow us to basically display all of our road features that we have coded with road numbers and mileposts on a map without having to go out and collect GPS points. It does require us, though, to have a map of the road center lines that is calibrated such that we can identify what direction they're going and what the beginning and ending metrics are. So in this presentation, we talked about what the current GIS usages are, the fact that we have over 36,000 features across 5 counties. Now, we do have some data issues that we're working with. We talked about how we can access the GIS data, either through the file geodatabase download, the KML download, the ARC Online cloud service, or the IRIS API. We talked about how you can enter GIS data into the system, either manually in IRIS 9 or 10, how you can do it out in the field with the IRIS Remote 10, which is we're still in development, and how we are welcoming of custom import processes that we can discuss with you about. We talked about the project limitations, about our licensing and staffing limitations, and our future initiatives about wanting to obtain additional location information, our GIS user group, and our linear referencing research and development. So at this point, I'd like to open it up to any questions you might have. If you could start throwing things out into the chat or raise your hand or let me know, we'd be more than happy to answer those. So I see that we have one from Gregory, that I have used Dogami intensity LiDAR download off their site to retrace our center lines pretty accurately. Oh, that's great information. The key with that, to make that work in linear referencing, is that we'd have to create routes along those lines. We'd have to know what direction those routes are going in, what the beginning milepost is, what the ending milepost, and the road number associated with that. But having that information traced from LiDAR information provides a very accurate representation of the road center line. So that's a really great resource, Gregory.
And if there's any other questions, please throw them up onto the chat. But Ken, you talked about the 4 methods of getting that data, or excuse me, the ways that we're going to utilize that data. Are there pros and cons of each of those, from ESRI files for Google? What about that?
Yeah, there really are some pros and cons with those. The ESRI file geodatabase, you basically have the ability to do any kind of GIS analysis that you want with those. You can see like how many culverts are in a wetland zone, for example, those type of things. And the Google Earth, but it does, the ESRI file geodatabases does require you to have the software to use them. The Google Earth KML files allows you to see them, but you can't do that same kind of spatial analysis. But it doesn't cost you anything to run Google Earth. The online cloud services, those allows you to get the information online and use the software that's in the ARC Online. And many counties already have ARC Online licenses or have the ability to get them through their IT shops. the ESRI usually has discounts for counties. And then finally, the IRIS API gives you the ability, if you have a programming staff, to embed this into any application that you may have that you use there and you develop yourself. So we have another thing from Eric McAvoy. Polk County drove the network to create linear routes about 2 years ago. Be happy to share our process and the scripts that were written. That would be awesome. Now, we're really looking for people to partner with who are further down the road so that we can better create tools and procedures for the rest of the counties.
Great. Any other questions on that, of anything that we've talked about so far or what we're doing? Don't be afraid, and don't be afraid too, if you're just kicking some ideas around, send us those questions even after this webinar so we can talk about them, incorporate them as well.
Right. Again, I guess just to kind of summarize then, as we wait for any other particular questions they have, is that GIS has been around for quite a while in IRIS. It's been utilized by some counties, typically counties that have GIS staff that make that happen. But the GIS world has changed quite a bit over the last 10 years with ARC Online, with other tools, with more prevalence of GPS units and whatnot. So it's an opportune time for us to relook at GIS and determine what tools and capabilities that we can provide you, what tools and capabilities you can provide for yourself, and how we can make those two work together.
Anything else from the County Road Program programming team, IRIS programming team, that you need to or would like to state, or at least get out there? Just want to give everyone a chance. Don't see anybody jumping in. So, well, I appreciate your time. I think if that is it, if there's no other questions, and again, if you do have questions, don't hesitate to actually throw those out to us. Let us know what you need, and we can get back to you on that. But we appreciate your time. We know it's valuable, and so we appreciate you coming here. And don't forget, our next webinar will be July 30th, and it will look at our IRIS reports and permits and how it's being utilized and how you can utilize it now, and also in version 10. So that'll be our next webinar on July 30th. Thank you again for attending, and I will get this put together and put back up onto our YouTube channel so you can always go back and view it as well. Thank you very much, and you have a good day.
Thank you.